Before we embark on this journey, I must caution you that the tale ahead delves into mature themes. The narrative explores the trials of new motherhood, the dynamics of family relationships, and the complexities of infidelity. If these subjects unsettle you, it may be wise to pause your viewing. Once upon a time, there was a man named Bray Shuffer, who was 42 years into his journey through life. Should you take a glimpse into my life, you might deem it unconventional. Yet, I have come to embrace it for all that it represents. If you had shared with me a decade ago that my life would take such unexpected turns, I would have likely chuckled and brushed it off as a mere jest. I would have never thought you could be true. In this serene moment, I find myself at my kitchen table, the morning stillness wrapping around me like a gentle embrace. My gaze lingers on a half-empty cup of coffee, and my thoughts wander freely, painting vivid scenes in the quiet air. As I weave through the tapestry of the last decade, I find myself sifting through the threads of events, seeking the deeper significance in each moment. Yet it remains elusive, slipping through my fingers like sand. For the past 8 years, it has been a journey shared between my son Maximus and me. Since the divorce, we've been journeying through life together, as if the entire universe conspired against us. Do you recall the moment it all started, when his father stepped away? Once upon a time, there was a young boy named Maximus Weasley, who was just 10 years old. He held back his emotions, not allowing a single tear to fall in my presence. He never does. Yet I could perceive it in the nuanced manner she would carry herself. In the stillness of the room, I noticed the way his eyes lingered on the horizon. A silent yearning etched across his face. It was as if he was holding on to the hope that his father would return, despite the unspoken truth that weighed heavily in his heart. Each day, he would patiently await. Each day, I witnessed the quiet sorrow that crept onto his face as he waited for his father's return, a hope that slowly dimmed with the passing hours. On the day his father departed, I vowed to myself something profound. I vowed in that moment that I would do anything. It required effort to ensure that Maximus never experienced any feelings. In solitude, I would stand as the unwavering presence in his life, ensuring he experienced the comforting embrace and safety of a family, though it was merely the two of us. That vow has served as the bedrock of all my endeavors since that moment. What fuels my spirit, even in the bleakest moments, has not always come without its challenges. Yet, I have endeavored to weave a tapestry of stability for Gray, to envelop him in the love and support he truly deserves. Regardless of the challenges life presented over the years, I truly felt I was holding everything in place. Maximus was a truly delightful child. Ken, ever the silent observer, constantly seeks out opportunities to lend a hand around the house. There was a certain softness to him, a quality that set him apart even among his peers. As the years passed, a transformation began to unfold. He began to transform in ways that eluded my understanding. And if I'm being utterly candid, I can envision myself transforming as well. This year, Maximus reached the age of 18, a momentous occasion that felt significant for both of us. He has outgrown his childhood, and yet, sometimes, when I reflect within, I find myself pondering that he remains on the brink of understanding the essence of manhood. The journey is often shrouded in ambiguity. It's clear to me that he's grappling with this challenge. He has always carried a certain quietness about him. Even as a child, he never felt the urge to always be about. Other children never pursued the boisterous, cow-loving exchanges that many of their companions engaged in. He tends to stay in, finding solace in the serene embrace of his own space. He lacks close companions, not in the manner that one might anticipate from a young man. I sought to engage him in conversation, to delve into his thoughts and feelings, to uncover if there was a shadow of loneliness, or a sense of being adrift within him. Yet, whenever I mention it, he merely shrugs, brushing aside my worries with a nonchalant, "I'm fine." Yet, I understand him more deeply than he realizes. I can see that he is not truly fine. A mother possesses an innate understanding of these matters, even when her child attempts to persuade Hero. About a month ago, Maximus shared something with me that carried an unexpected weight, catching me by surprise. It was a confession that left me momentarily stunned. As the evening shadows danced around us in the living room, it was just the two of us, when he revealed a struggle he had been grappling with in silence. He confided that he had been wrestling with feelings of isolation and confusion, emotions he found difficult to express. In that moment, I found myself enveloped in a haze of concern, trying to process his words. His vulnerability puzzled me at first, its depth eluding my grasp, and when the weight of his confession settled in, when I truly understood the pain he was trying to convey, it felt as if the ground beneath me had shifted. My heart quickened, my breath caught in my chest. I wanted to ask questions, to understand what had stirred such turmoil in his thoughts, what had led him to carry this burden alone. Yet, I held back. Instead, I stood still, my gaze fixed upon him. He seemed small, wrapped in a quiet shame, his eyes cast downward, avoiding mine. His posture was heavy, stirring a deep empathy within me. The boy who once radiated eagerness to help now stood cloaked in silence, weighed down by an invisible burden I couldn't fully comprehend. In that fleeting moment, a profound realization washed over me. This wasn't just about his words. The heart of it lay not in what he said, but in the deeper struggle he was facing, a quiet pain that ran far beneath the surface. Once upon a time, there was something he had always struggled to find the right words. There was an emotion stirring within him. It was a thought that lingered in the shadows, a whisper too fragile to escape his lips. This was a tale of his struggle, his bewilderment, his solitude, and his trepidation. And somehow all I could do was sit there, with him striving to grasp not only the facts of what transpired, but also the silent, aching emotion she bore that he had yet to learn how to navigate, to convey. He was neither a pervert nor a monster. He was my son, and he faced his battles, facing challenges with emotions. He felt a pressing confusion. She found herself unable to rein it in. I found it impossible to deepen his sorrow beyond what he already carried within him. Thus, he embarked on a decision. About a month ago, Maximus shared something with me that carried an unexpected weight, catching me by surprise. It was a confession that left me momentarily stunned. As the evening shadows danced around us in the living room, it was just the two of us, when he revealed a struggle he had been grappling with in silence. He confided that he had been wrestling with feelings of isolation and confusion, emotions he found difficult to express. In that moment, I found myself enveloped in a haze of concern, trying to process his words. His vulnerability puzzled me at first, its depth eluding my grasp, and when the weight of his confession settled in, when I truly understood the pain he was trying to convey, it felt as if the ground beneath me had shifted. My heart quickened, my breath caught in my chest. I wanted to ask questions, to understand what had stirred such turmoil in his thoughts, what had led him to carry this burden alone. Yet, I held back. Instead, I stood still, my gaze fixed upon him. He seemed small, wrapped in a quiet shame, his eyes cast downward, avoiding mine. His posture was heavy, stirring a deep empathy within me. The boy who once radiated eagerness to help now stood cloaked in silence, weighed down by an invisible burden I couldn't fully comprehend. In that fleeting moment, a profound realization washed over me. This wasn't just about his words. The heart of it lay not in what he said, but in the deeper struggle he was facing, a quiet pain that ran far beneath the surface. One can't help but ponder the thoughts that would swirl in the minds of others if they were to uncover the truth. Would they label me as a mother who has failed? Perhaps they would, yet they remain unaware. Maximus, they have yet to experience the profound anguish of witnessing their child in pain, feeling utterly powerless to mend it. They have no idea what it's like to feel as though you're just hanging on by a thread, all elements united, merely striving to hold it all together. The path ahead remains a mystery. Shrouded in uncertainty, I am uncertain if this arrangement is destined to thrive over the long haul, or if it's merely a ticking timepiece, posed to unleash its chaos. Yet, for now, this is the tale we live. This is the path we've embraced. Amidst the chaos and intricacies of our journey, I strive to give my all for him. For the both of us, if you're still here, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. We'd love to hear your reflections in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more captivating tales like this one. Believe me, there's a vast world waiting to be revealed. What unfolded wasn't part of my design. It wasn't a thought that crossed my mind. It simply unfolded. In that fleeting moment, I found myself seated, pondering how to approach Maximus regarding the revelations he had shared with me, and then the words flowed from my lips as if they possessed all of their own. I told you, you can continue, but there are a few things I require in exchange. He gazed at me as if I had just uttered words from a distant realm. His complexion drained of color. His hands tightened into fists on the kitchen table for a brief moment. I believed he would rise and make his exit. Perhaps I wished for him to. Perhaps I was wishing for a different answer from him. He would declare me insane, and then dramatically exit the room. Yet, he chose not to. He lingered in silence, his gaze fixed upon me. His mouth moved in a rhythm of uncertainty, as if words danced just out of reach. "What do you mean by that?" Heffernan inquired, his voice trembling and soft. It was as if uncertainty lingered in his mind, casting doubt on whether he truly desired to uncover the truth. With a deep inhalation, I steadied myself. "Well, you can certainly continue, but it must be in my presence. In exchange, I am free to embrace my life as I choose. I have the ability to welcome others into the home without your input. Anything. Let me share a tale about it. There shall be no judgment, nor inquiries. We each receive what we seek." "Very well." A profound hush enveloped the moment that followed. Maximus remained silent, his lips sealed tight. He simply gazed at me. His brow knitted together, his lips sealed tight into a delicate thread. It was clear he was working through the words I had just shared, seeking to unravel its meaning. I found myself engaged in the same tale. The words lingered, suspended in the space between us, and there was no way to reclaim them. It wasn't that I was entirely convinced I wanted to at last. He gave a slight nod, just a whisper of agreement, sufficient to catch the eye. "Very well." He spoke, his voice carrying the weight of his words. Such gentle softness. It was so faint, I nearly missed it entirely. "If that is your desire." And that was the end of the tale. That was the agreement. Once upon a time, it all began. I felt the wave of nausea wash over me. I perched on the edge of my bed, lost in thought. My heart raced within my chest. My palms are slick with sweat. I convinced myself that this was exactly what he required, that it was a more favorable path than the other option, that my actions were for his benefit. Yet, beneath the surface, I understood it was far more complex. It is never so. Maximus stepped into the room, his gaze fixed firmly on the ground. Silence enveloped him, words unspoken. Neither did I. We chose not to gaze upon one another. Indeed, I assure you, merely sitting there, feigning indifference as the events unfolded around me. This was simply an ordinary day unfolds. And when it came to an end, he departed, in silence. For what felt like an eternity, I remained still. Caught in the moment that had just unfolded, I found myself seated, gazing intently at the wall before me, struggling to weave a narrative that everything was just as it should be. Indeed, this was quite satisfactory. It's peculiar. The experiences that you gradually acclimate to initially strike you like a blow to the stomach. Yet, as the days passed, it became more manageable, Or perhaps, I simply became more skilled at feigning indifference to its impact on me. I reassured myself that it wasn't causing harm to anyone, that it was merely something unique. I convinced myself that I was being sensible. I was crafting something meaningful from a challenging circumstance. And for a time, I held on to that belief. Maximus, on the other hand, it was a tale of its own, resentment masked by a facade of normalcy. Yet, the truth was reflected in his gaze. The weight of shame, the burden of guilt. He kept it to himself, never uttering a word. Yet, I sensed the deep-seated loathing he harbored for himself, for the very necessity of this, for the need for me. And each time I laid my eyes upon the expression that adorned his visage, it shattered my soul. A touch more. But what was I meant to do? He was my son, the one and only light of my life. Turning my back on him was simply not an option. I couldn't stand idly by and watch him sink beneath the weight of his own emotions. Thus, I embarked on the familiar path I often tread. I donned a courageous mask and pressed on for his sake. As I ponder Mephros, uncertainty clouds my mind, leaving me to question whether my actions are truly on the right path. There are times when I find myself lost, uncertain of what the right path truly is. Yet, here we stand, in the life we've crafted together. For the moment, this is sufficient. It must be. In the beginning, it felt quite familiar. Maximus adhered to the familiar rhythm of his days. Should you even dare to label it as such? In the early light of dawn. At times, once more as the evening unfolds, it unfolded in unexpected ways. Yet it remained within the realm of control. I reassured myself that this was merely a fleeting moment, that he would eventually lose interest. I thought it would fade away once the excitement diminished. But I was mistaken. Rather than decelerating, it gradually began to gain momentum, albeit at a leisurely pace initially. As the sun rose, it gracefully transitioned into the embrace of afternoon, which eventually surrendered to the quiet of night. Then, 2 mornings in a row, I began to observe just how swiftly things were unfolding. The hours in the day started to unfold around. This arrangement featured a diminished presence of the ordinary. Scarcer instances. When the atmosphere within the dwelling felt devoid of sensation, burdened by the weight of our pack, I attempted to cast it aside, to bury it deep within the recesses of my thoughts. Yet, it remained, hovering in the background like an ever-present shadow. Once upon a time, there was a moment when a sense of unease washed over me. As I found myself amidst the task of folding laundry, Maximus strode in, unannounced, uttering a phrase. His expression was taut, his body language rigid. I sensed his desires before a single word escaped his lips. Anything I placed the garments upon and smoothed the edge of. The couch sat patiently, anticipating his return. Yet, there was an unmistakable shift. This time, he lingered a moment longer, as if the end held more weight than before. He lingered, gazing at me as if searching for something deeper. He was on the verge of expressing something profound. Yet, the words eluded me. I sensed the stirrings within me. In the weight of the moment, urgent, crushing upon me like a heavy stone. "Are you all right?" I inquired with a whisper, gentler than my own tone. With purpose, he nodded. Yet, I could perceive it within his gaze. This had transcended the realm of relief. It was something beyond the ordinary. On that fateful night, slumber eluded me. I gazed at the ceiling, reliving the day's events in my mind, and over in my mind, I reassured myself to avoid getting lost in my thoughts, convincing myself that I was merely conjuring up illusions. Yet, within the depths of my being, I held a different truth. This was more than a mere escape for him. No longer. It was a yearning that was beginning to take root within him, something he was beginning to unravel. The most terrifying. Once, there was a part, Uncertainty gripped me as I pondered the way to bring it to a halt. In the days that unfolded, Maximus's demeanor transformed even further. He ceased his efforts to conceal it, ceased to linger for the perfect instances. It felt as though he was completely indifferent to the concept of boundaries. No longer. It was as if the agreement we struck came at no cost. He was free to pursue his desires at his leisure. Perhaps it truly was. I had bestowed upon him the liberty to embark on this journey, hadn't I? It was the very first moment I playfully nudged him. It was a moment of quiet tension. As I stood in the kitchen, preparing a meal, he entered the room. I felt his presence behind me, his silence filling the space as I moved. His quiet observation seemed to carry a weight I couldn't quite place. In a moment of uncertainty, I questioned how to bridge the gap between us. Perhaps I wanted to break the heavy silence that lingered, or perhaps I was trying to understand the distance in his eyes. In a fleeting impulse, I set down the kitchen towel, letting it rest gently on the counter. His breath seemed to pause for a moment. As I turned to meet his gaze, a small smile flickered on my face. "Everything okay?" I asked softly, hoping to ease the moment. I noticed a flush of emotion cross his face. He said nothing, his expression unreadable. With a quiet nod, he turned and left the room, leaving a sense of unspoken thoughts in his wake. Yet, I could still feel the weight of that moment lingering, even after he was gone. From that moment on, it became a subtle shift in our interactions. I would pause to tie my hair back, adjust my posture slightly, or linger a moment longer in conversation. Small gestures, barely noticeable, just enough to test the waters to see if I could draw him out of his shell. I'd wait briefly before moving on. It gave me a strange sense of connection, a spark of hope I hadn't felt in years. Yet, I wrestled with how much I leaned into these moments. As the days passed, the distance between us seemed to soften. Bit by bit, he began to seek me out more often, finding reasons to linger nearby, even when there was no need. And I found myself doing the same. I told myself it was harmless, that it meant nothing. But in truth, uncertainty gnawed at me, clouding my sense of what it all meant. Doubt crept into my thoughts, leaving me unsure of the clarity I once held. A moment lingered in the twilight as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow across the landscape. The evening unfolded like a delicate tapestry of colors and whispers. When it all unfolded, before me, in the living room, sat Maximus, his presence commanding the space, his gaze locked onto mine as, once upon a time, I delved into the pages of a book. There was a heaviness in the air, laden with unspoken tension, the kind that sent shivers down your spine and quickened your heartbeat. I gazed up at him as their eyes locked for the very first time. In that moment, I remained steadfast, my gaze unwavering. He did not either. Their silence wove its way between us. It was a weighty and oppressive moment, lingering until I mustered the strength to clear my throat and rise to my feet. As the day draws to a close, I find myself ready to embrace the tranquility of slumber. I spoke, my voice barely rising above a whisper. Yet, I sensed his gaze upon me. With a heavy heart, I turned and took my leave. I'm uncertain about the path that led us here. It's hard to believe I allowed it to reach this point. Yet, here we find ourselves ensnared in a cycle. I find myself uncertain about how to find a way to break free. And as much as I yearn to hold onto the reins of my own destiny, a shadow looms over me, whispering that defeat has already claimed its prize. It was not until Enrique arrived, Franklin stepped into our world. And so, the threads of the tale began to come undone. Our paths crossed thanks to a mutual friend. It was one of those seemingly ordinary introductions that, at first glance, hardly seemed worth a second thought. Yet, Enrique was not that sort of man. One might find it effortless to overlook his charm, which had a certain allure. It seemed so natural, as if he effortlessly brought a smile to your face without even trying. His laughter enveloped the room, a warm and inviting sound that effortlessly lifted my spirits. Perhaps for the very first time in ages, as Enrique began to visit more frequently, I found myself slowly lowering my defenses. In the beginning, it was merely for dinner or a refreshing beverage on the back porch. Yet, before long, he found himself lingering longer in the living room. Once Maximus had withdrawn to his room. And then, on a fateful night, he simply did not depart from here entirely. I chose not to conceal it from Maximus. That was not the case. It was a crucial element of our agreement, after all. Yet, the expression on his face the following morning was impossible to overlook. As he entered the kitchen, his gaze fell upon Henry, who was seated there, lost in thought. At the table, he sipped his coffee, as if he had been a part of that scene for ages. It was understated. Yet, I was familiar with my son, able to discern the tightness in his jaw. The grip of his hands around the plate grew firmer, perhaps a touch more challenging than anticipated. In the beginning, Maximus remained silent. He simply observed, from the edge, squad and gloomy. Yet, as the weeks unfolded, Enrique's visits to our home grew more regular. His silence transformed into a more piercing presence. He began to bite back at me over the smallest of matters: neglected tasks, odd socks, little irritations that appeared to possess a spirit all its own. I attempted to dismiss it, convincing myself it was merely his method of adapting. Yet, the reality was, a palpable tension began to weave itself between us, a silent storm brewing in the air. Dense and weighty, like a tempest poised to unleash its fury one fateful evening. As Enrique and I found myself on the couch, chuckling heartily over a delightful moment. With a playful bounce, Maximus strolled into the room, a whimsical presence that instantly brightened the atmosphere. At first, he remained silent, merely remained in place, there, observing us with an expression that eluded my understanding. As I lifted my gaze and locked eyes with him, I perceived it. The pain, the fury, the bewilderment. It had been simmering just below the surface for weeks. Before I could utter a word, he began to speak. His voice carried a soft tremor, low and filled with emotion. Do you still hold any concern within you? His voice sliced through the silence, sharp and precise, leaving an impact that resonated in the stillness. Enrique cast a surprised glance in my direction. Yet, I chose not to accept. I averted my gaze from Maximus. What is it that you're referring to? I inquired, my voice unwavering. Though my heart raced with fervor, he ventured a step nearer, his fists tightened at his sides. You seem indifferent to my existence. Let me share with you a tale of who we are and what we stand for. This is what our journey has transformed within me. The room vanished. Quiet, still. Enrique hesitated, his courage wavering. With a deliberate grace, I rose to my feet, my chest tight as I scanned Maximus's face, seeking some glimmer of understanding. Maximus, that simply isn't the case, I whispered gently. Naturally, my feelings for you run deep. He fired his words with precision. Ascend, HOWIES. None of this. For me, you allowed this fellow to stroll right into our lives, as if it were a mere trifle. As you share a moment, laughter dances between you both. It feels as though I am but a whisper in the wine, a fleeting shadow that dances unnoticed. The breath escaped from my lungs, a fleeting whisper in the stillness. His words struck me with a force I hadn't anticipated. Maximus, I declared, extending a hand towards him. Yet, he withdrew before I was able to reach out to him. I was unaware you experienced this feeling, as I mentioned. Naturally, that wasn't the case. He spoke, with a sharp edge. Your freedom keeps you occupied, doesn't it? Whatever it may be, you believe this is. Do you still notice my presence in your world? Am I merely a convenience? The hush that enveloped the room was overwhelming. Enrique shifted uneasily on the couch, murmuring something about needing space before quietly slipping out the door. I hardly took note. Before me stood my sons, the only figures in my view. There I stood, quivering with a whirlwind of feelings. For far too long, I had turned a blind eye to that night. After Maximus charged forth with fervor, he made his way to his room. I found myself seated in the living room, lost in thought, gazing into the distance, the abandoned coffee cup that Enrique had forgotten. His words echoed in my mind, a relentless loop that refused to fade, each one slicing a bit more profoundly than the final. Indeed, he was correct. He hadn't crossed my mind. Indeed, not at all. I had been deeply engrossed in my efforts to shape this situation, endeavor to persuade myself that all was well. I hadn't paused to reflect on the impact it was having on him. And for the first time in an age, in that moment, I sensed the profound impact of my decisions regarding the agreement I had crafted with Maximus. The limits we had set, traversed the boundaries we had softened. It had transcended beyond just the two of us. It was a tale of transformation, and the scars we bore were departing in our trail. That night, sleep eluded me. There I was, seated in silence, my gaze fixed on the door, lost in contemplation. If only there remained a path to mend this, or if it were, it is already too late. The morning that followed our disagreement, an eerie silence enveloped the house. Maximus lingered in his chamber. The door stood firmly shut, the atmosphere thick with unvoiced anticipation. As I settled into my seat at the kitchen table, my gaze drifted over the steaming cup of coffee before me. The steam rose, twisting and curling like a gentle forb, enveloping everything in its embrace. Failing my mind, I found it impossible to turn a blind eye any longer. There was a call to action that I could not ignore. So it goes. This was. Whatever we had transformed our relationship. It simply couldn't continue in this manner. Not for him. Not my cup of tea. As the afternoon sun began to wane, I approached and knocked gently upon his door. Initially, silence reigned supreme. Yet I lingered, my forehead resting against the wooden frame. Once upon a time, there was a figure known as Maximus. Kindly, I have something to share with you, whispered gently. At long last, the door let out a haunting creak, revealing him in the threshold. His visage was shrouded in mystery, and his eyes bore the weight of countless tales untold, rimmed with the fatigue of a long journey. I apologize, I spoke, my voice quivering with emotion, for all things, for not recognizing the pain this has caused you, for allowing matters to reach this point. I made an error in judgment. His expression remained steadfast, unyielding at first. Yet he gracefully moved aside to grant me entry. I perched on the edge of his bed, waiting for him. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed over his chest, a figure of quiet contemplation. Assistance is required. I acknowledged the truth for both of us. I can no longer maintain this facade of an ending. It's clear to me that I have a direction, and I must steer us away from this path we're on. This journey has seen its fair share of missteps. Yet, I feel compelled to attempt a remedy. Direct message me if you're open to it. Maximus remained silent at the outset. He simply nodded, his eyes conveying a silent understanding. A few days later, a fix was made on the floor. In a quaint little office, we found ourselves seated opposite Rafael Cabrera, a family therapist I discovered on the internet. Rafael was a gentle soul. His demeanor was serene and calm in a manner that wrapped around you like a warm blanket, providing comfort even in moments when words felt too heavy to share. In the beginning, neither of us did. We lingered in quietude, the heaviness of our tale enveloping us. So much to convey, yet words seem insufficient. Yet, Raphael possessed a unique ability to penetrate the barriers, that quietude, probing with inquiries that seemed more like gentle nudges than intrusions. Yet, akin to invitations. Gradually, Maximus started to share his thoughts. He shared the deep sense of isolation had enveloped him since the divorce. The turmoil he bore regarding our agreement and the emotions that had been simmering within him. I absorbed every word, emotions flowing like a river, trickling down my face. As I listened to him weave his words. Two emotions I had overlooked for an eternity. In the weeks that unfolded after therapy. It wove itself into the fabric of our daily lives. It was a challenging journey. There were days when we departed the office feeling more exhausted than when we first stepped inside. Once upon a time, in days long past, it raised a question. Imagine if we were truly advancing, yet, piece by piece, the barriers that separated us started to crumble. Raphael, a name that carries with it the weight of tales untold and adventures waiting to unfold, guided us in establishing our limits, authentic limits. This time, I conveyed to Maximus that our agreement had come to an end, that it was a misstep, and that we needed to embark on a new beginning. It has initially faced challenges in finding its footing. There were instances when I noticed him pulling back to cherished routines. His frustration reached a boiling point, into fury or sorrow. Yet, with Raphael leading the way, we discovered more nourishing paths to navigate our challenges. Maximus embarked on a journey of journaling, a venture I never imagined. He sought to channel his feelings and even became part of a local martial arts class, discovering a way to express himself. Gradually, I witnessed his transformation. He rose just a fraction higher, expressed thoughts with a touch more assurance. And so, I started to venture out more, weaving connections that were free and unbound. For me, the most challenging aspect for me was confronting my own reflection, truly confronting my own essence. Healing journey compelled me to face the decisions I had taken, the paths I would allow my own fears and insecurities to shape my connection with Maximus. I had devoted countless moments to grasping onto him, to bridge the emptiness created by the divorce I'd failed to recognize was stifling us. Both surrendering to the ebb and flow of that control, discovering the strength within to stand independently. It was among the most challenging experiences I've ever faced. One evening, several months after our initial therapy session, as the day drew to a close, Maximus and I found ourselves on the porch, captivated by the sun's descent beneath the horizon. He cast a glance my way and spoke, "Gratitude fills my heart for all that you've done. Dear Mum." It was a small thing, really, yet it was sufficient. I leaned in and grasped his hand, a simple gesture that conveyed so much. Echoes that resonate beyond the need for language. We're on a journey of discovery. Healing is a winding journey. It's a tangled web of challenges, brimming with obstacles and twists along the way. Yet, after what feels like an eternity, I find myself feeling once more. With a heart full of hope, Maximus embarks on his journey, seeking his path. And thus, I find myself in the same realm. Though the shadows of our past may linger, we might never completely wipe away the missteps we've taken. We are embarking on a journey to progress hand in hand. Life unfolds without a guidebook. What if I took that step? Perhaps I would have discarded mine ages ago. Maximus and I have journeyed through trials beyond my wildest dreams. Yet, against all odds, we find ourselves still standing, persevering onward. A house now carries a different essence as I continue to learn its secrets. As if it were a feather. Perhaps there exists a certain tranquility that it arises from the understanding that we are, at last, journeying towards something greater. Maximus has discovered his stride. He ventures out more often with his companions, increased attention devoted to his personal passions. And when our journeys intertwine, it seems as though we are coming together as unique souls, not as a pair, entangled in a chaotic web. Our comprehension was incomplete. We continue to share our special moments. Indeed, the journey of healing is rarely flawless. Yet, it has evolved for me. The path I've traveled has been one of confronting my true self. In my journey, I have come to embrace the art of forgiving my own missteps, to release the burden of guilt that has lingered over me for so long. I've come to realize that not everything can be mended. At times, the most profound gesture you can offer to a cherished one, it is to take a moment to pause and allow them the space to discover their own path. Though the journey has been fraught with challenges, I stand tall in my pride. Of the journey we've embarked upon, more than merely a mother and son. Yet, as to individuals embarking on a journey to cultivate respect and trust between them, once more, from all of this, there's a singular lesson that resonates deeply with me. It's the significance of boundaries. Truly, it is. They are more than mere guidelines. These are gestures of affection. Embrace the warmth for those who surround you and nurture the affection within yourself. They are the guardians of what truly matters, while also leaving space for blossoming, for comprehension, for unity. I've come to understand that holding oneself accountable holds equal weight to the act of forgiveness. At times, the most challenging endeavor you can undertake. It's time to acknowledge the truth of your missteps. Yet, it is also the most liberating for all who lend an ear. I have something to share. Errors do not shape your identity. Your actions are the essence of your identity. After you gather your strength and rise again, how do you confront those whose hearts you've touched with pain? And how you progress? Growth isn't about achieving perfection. It's a journey of embracing transformation, even when it sends a shiver down your spine. Even when it aches. Maximus and I are on a journey of discovery together, and I believe the wheelways shall come to be. Such is the journey we all traverse. Yet, in this moment, a new chapter unfolds. Once upon a time, I sense. As if we stand firmly on the earth beneath us. We are crafting a creation, improved. A choice that nourishes the body. And I am aware, together, we shall continue our journey onward. In any case, I'm eager to hear your thoughts. Share with me your thoughts. How would you respond if everything you knew crumbled around you? Similar to my own. How would you proceed from here? Share your thoughts with me in the comments. And if this tale stirred something within you, remember to show your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing for more captivating tales.